This is the Stop Bullying with Tolerance podcast series, coming to you live from Sedona, Arizona, with your host, Anka Wolf. Hello and welcome to yet another podcast in our Stop Bullying with Tolerance series. This podcast was created to give you, the parents, teachers, and grandparents, a little help in raising emotionally healthy kids. Are you one of those who could use a little bit of help? All right then, here we go. Today's topic is about accountability, or simply said, taking responsibility for our own actions. If we're taking responsibility for our own actions, we show accountability. As a family, we have to be accountable for the budget, for clothing our kids, making decisions about schooling and health. A government has to be accountable for decisions and laws affecting us, the citizens. And moreover, an individual has accountability for acts and behaviors as well. So when we look around it, accountability is every place. Taking responsibility and being accountable means once in a while also admitting one makes a mistake. Does that sound familiar? Of course it does. But not only that this is a given for us adults, it is also the Tolerance Stop Bullying message in the 10-point honor code of conduct. You know, the guidelines for healthier behavior and productive interactions I have created, which you can easily download for home use, classroom use on tolerance.com. And these guidelines, in number 6, we are talking about carrying responsibility for our own actions. I firmly believe that kids ought to learn what it means to be responsible for their own actions in order to live a healthy and productive life. Don't you agree? Remember, it is not only about being accountable or responsibility for our actions. It is also that we stand up for what we believe. And if we made a mistake, again, being accountable, then let's admit it. That's not always easy. I know that. But how do we teach that to children? You know, actually, it's pretty easy. All we have to do is be a role model. You and I, the parents, we need to be the role model and show accountability. Keep a promise we set. And take the responsibility if we boo-booed. Yes, you can say, I'm sorry, kids, I did mess up. I really am sorry. So it's pretty easy. Now, here are 7 key points to accountability or being responsible for our own actions, which are pretty basic, yet extremely important. So let's take a look at this. Number 1, accountability starts with you or me. 2, you are accountable. Accountability is not a one-time thing. Number 4, accountability applies to one and all of us. 5, accountability cannot be delegated. 6, accountability is the difference between success and failure. And number 7, you have to hold people, meaning yourself and your children, accountable. So let's now take a look at the individual points. I would like to mention that it is pretty easy to find a lot more information about accountability for kids and parents and teachers, or in general for society, in communities. When you click the word in your browser, galore, information galore. Okay? So let's go into point number 1. Accountability starts with you. Create a culture of accountability. That means leadership. You as parent, as single mom, as grandparents, you define the culture of accountability. You want to create this, and it does start with you. You alone are the model for the kids around you. If you want your children, your students around you to take ownership of accountability and being responsible, you have to start. When you make commitments, you have to be seen to be meeting those commitments every time, step by step, every time. If you don't, then why should the kids around you or even co-workers be interested in doing so? You have to walk the talk if you want others to follow. Number 2, you are accountable. You're accountable for any failure. But it's much more important, you're accountable also for all the successes. Your family, your children, your relationships, in the classroom, at work. Accountability comes from within, standing up for self. Yes, and sometimes look in the mirror and say, I really messed up. But it's my responsibility to own it and to make it better. When you achieve this and when you practice that, your kids will copy you. Number 3, accountability is not a one-time thing. It's not a one-time thing or a sometime thing. It is an all-time thing. You need to be seen as a role model, as being accountable at all times. Yes, and it's difficult. I grant you that. So the children around you learn from your constant. In number 4, accountability applies to one and all. Yeah, that goes for everybody. So you cannot play favorites in classroom or at home, meaning everyone has to adhere to it. And if we let it slide with some students or one or the other child, it will be copied and taken advantage of rightfully by all the others. Accountability has to be consistently requested of everyone all the time. Number 5, accountability cannot be delegated. This is a big one. It's one of my favorites, I have to admit, because accountability is something that has to be accepted for that child to feel accountable and responsible and to own it. You know, the best way to learn to accept it is to help being successful, meaning the best way to get people, or let's say children, to accept accountability is to set them up to believe that the child can achieve it, that a child can achieve this or that. It doesn't matter. Let them become convinced that they can achieve it themselves. Then to see that they accept the accountability is the success. And that is the success of own creation. and they will believe forever they're not going to fail. Number 6, accountability is the difference between success and failure. And we just talked about it. By learning to accept responsibility and being accountable, children learn very fast that this is the difference between being successful and not so much. When we observe children not taking responsibility, and there comes always this also accepting that we sometimes are in fault, they easily fall behind and pull back from possible success. And that's, as I said before, that's what we want to prevent. Countering that notion with your own accountability of ownership, because you have taken the kids on that path. And let's look at the kids when they see you. You keep a promise. You are accountable for a mess up. You know how easy you drop a jar of jam and you say, oh, it's because you pushed me. Yeah, that is delegating, and we can't do that. Accept it. Oh, my mistake. I dropped it. Period. That is success. That is accepting accountability. And when you do that, your kids will too. Because if we don't, as the adult, the parent, the teacher, kids sliding into this spectator mode, they're watching you, and they don't have to pull themselves together to be accountable or carry the responsibility. Remember, you are the tour guide on this path to accountability. And number 7 is actually something very simple. You, as the adult, have to hold people accountable. That means also your kids. Children need to be told that they are accountable. But we can't just say that and leave them to kind of figure out what to do. No. We need to give them help. Your child might need some help in understanding that this accountability thingy or being responsible for an action has also consequences. Bring that in. Maybe you want to do 2 or 3 very simple examples, actions, where the responsibility, the accountability of the action has consequences, and the kids carry the responsibility. They own it. This kind of exercise serves 3 or even more purposes. Children learn quickly that they are being held accountable for the activities. It gives you an opportunity to support your child in reaching the goal. Remember, accepting success, self-esteem. And thirdly, that is the moment to pile praise and encouragement onto your child. Accountability is something that has to be learned and to be worked on, exercised. It starts with you, the parent, grandparent, teacher. And it has to apply at all times and to everyone. When you can do all of the above steps, it helps you to create the culture of accountability at home and in the classroom. That is the kind of atmosphere, this accountability that you and your kids, you're yearning for. Take an example of the homework. Finishing homework after school, praises come from mom and dad. Time for play, and next day the teacher is impressed and praises. Your child feels awesome, as tolerance will say. Do we have to mention the opposite? No, I don't think so. It simply leads to all kinds of positive results. Violence reduction because kids are accountable and taking responsibility for their actions. That in return makes children feel good about themselves. And in time, it will have a massive impact of performance and results in the classroom and at home, in communities, at the playground, in interactions at any place. I hope these few points have given you a few hints and some help. And if you want to have the script for these points, you go to tolerance.com and just download them. So we have come to the close of another podcast. And in closing, let me reiterate that the Tolerance Stops Bullying project is available to everyone. Check it out. Make it your own. Help us standing up to bullies. Give your kids the gift of inner strength and the know-how of self-belief, self-esteem, and the notion, I can do it. However, we cannot do it alone. We need you. Please know that you can implement this amazing project in your home, in the classroom, and in gathering places for kids like Girls and Boys Club. We love to hear from you. Connect with us and send us an email. tolerancefoundation@gmail.com or to me personally, Anke, ANKE, @sedonasoulbalance.com. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me again. I'm signing off for this week with a heartfelt aho.